the practice of medicine in the 21st century is science fiction. Surgical robots, lab-grown body parts, and an abundance of lasers are a few examples. Only it is actual and helps save lives. The practice of medicine was not as modern back then. Additionally, it wasn't hygienic and frequently wasn't even useful. It might be downright terrifying at times. Here are some weird ancient medical treatments that will leave you puzzled. Python bile as genital ulcer treatment. While many traditional medical practices may look strange, some of them seem so absurd that it's hard to believe anyone ever tried them. It was strange enough that treating animal bites with medicine used to be the norm. However, some of the treatment's presumptions were odd. According to some sources, the Chinese employed python bites to heal genital sores. To be fair, China once thought that various animal bites may be utilized as a form of therapy. Python bites were applied externally to cure ulcers on female genitalia, the World Journal of Gastroenterology states. Some tribes used to control a very brief bite that would penetrate the skin or partially scrape someone with a snake's teeth. They believed the venom from these poisonous snakes, though, might be used to treat illnesses. They occasionally just used the venom itself. This made some sense because the poison can cause certain effects. However, since pythons are not poisonous, all you would be doing is puncturing the skin. This could be detrimental at that point since it exposes the person to infection. Additionally, did the woman receive a bite down there or elsewhere on her body? One could be far more painful than the other. Elephant bile for bad breath. When you have a bottle of elephant bile sitting around, who needs breath mints? Elephant bile, when mixed with water, was thought to be able to treat halitosis by the ancient Chinese medical professionals and pharmacists. We think a milkshake version would have tasted better. Cigarettes for asthma. Cigarettes were once thought to be beneficial for patients with asthma by many doctors. Naturally, one would assume that smoking would be the worst thing for someone who has asthma, but not for them. Because nicotine was used, it's possible that they were able to partially coat the throat and provide some relief. Back then, neither were people aware of how addictive nicotine was, nor were they thinking about cigarettes' other ingredients. Smoking was so generally acceptable in the 19th and 20th centuries that doctors frequently smoked in the exam room while examining patients. Early cigarettes were a little more difficult to use, but menthol was added to most of them by the 1920s to help with this. Menthol is a highly helpful substance that might benefit someone who has asthma or sinus problems. For a long, doctors seemed to disregard the idea of using menthol on its own, which led to their advice of smoking cocaine for depression. Psychology values Sigmund Freud for his contributions to the field. Because he continuously prescribed cocaine to his patients, he is less respected. No, he wasn't by himself. Many medical professionals in the 19th century supported the use of cocaine as a treatment for a variety of conditions, including toothaches, migraines, and depression. Bloodletting or leeching. To be fair, bloodletting is still used in contemporary medical procedures. However, in the developed world, uncommon disorders like hemochromatosis and polycythemia are where it is most frequently used. Because bloodletting can deprive bacterial pathogens of iron, it is frequently practiced as an alternative therapy in less developed countries. That inhibits bacterial development and may lessen the severity of infections. This makes obvious, of course, because your immune system eliminates illness. Antibiotics simply address the signs of infection. Bloodletting, on the other hand, is one of the traditional medicinal practices that has been practiced for thousands of years. It dates back to Egypt and ancient Greece. The body, according to the illustrious Greek physician Hippocrates, is composed of 4 humors: phlegm, black bile, yellow bile, and green bile. According to the theory, the body must be in a state of equilibrium, so if you were ill, your body was obviously out of balance. Blood was frequently the simplest to remove for obvious reasons when you wish to lessen something from one of the humors. Because of this, bloodletting was once employed to treat almost everything. Hippocrates probably had such a strong belief in it because it might work for certain things but not for everything. Ear candle. One of the most absurd things anyone could ever imagine to utilize is the ear candle. Even while many traditional medical practices seem strange, people can typically overlook them. This is due to the fact that there was at least a semblance of a justification for the treatment's use. A candle in the ear, though, just seems stupid. A person typically lay on their side with one ear raised. The ear was filled with a lit candle that was typically at least 12 inches long. The purpose of this was to get rid of trash and other things from the ear. The notion also persisted that the candle's connection to the heat's ability to draw even earwax out of the ear through some form of suction. Not only was this rarely successful, but candle wax also got into the ear. Burns and possible ear infections may result from this. In addition, because of the wax buildup inside the ear, those who had wax in their ear could partially lose their hearing, causing impairment. Snail slime for warts. According to the University of Oxford, after doing their slime walk over a wart, snails would be stabbed to death, usually with thorns, and as the snail withered and died, the wart would also do the same. Who knew it was so simple? Hot irons for hemorrhoids. Hemorrhoids can be very painful, as is common knowledge. Some can be so severe that patients must have surgery to correct them. Medical professionals discovered a very efficient cure for the problem in medieval times. The same might be stated for much of medieval history, even though it should be mentioned that some of the most horrifying and barbarous medical procedures in history occurred during this time. Although Hippocrates, a Greek physician, is credited with invention of this particular technique, the most serious hemorrhoids were burned out by medieval doctors during the 12th century. They would employ a cautery iron that was extremely hot to burn them. However uncomfortable it was, the hemorrhoids were removed using this technique. Since there is less potential damage to this area, the burns will eventually heal on their own. Trepanning. Trepanning started out rather simply, as did many traditional medical procedures. The oldest known surgery that people have performed on one another is this. In fact, it has been proven that this practice dates back to some of the earliest known civilizations as far back as 7,000 years ago. A hole is effectively bored or drilled in the skull during the process. The original plan was to use this opening to release any pressure that had built up inside as well as any potential evil spirits that may have congregated there. It was frequently believed that any mental ailments or abnormalities were caused by ghosts. Some of the work done in Peru was done to meet urgent demands. People may be injured in combat and get skull fractures as a result. Trepanation is done to get rid of extra bone pieces. The belief that it may treat abscesses, blood clots, migraines, epilepsy, and other conditions was, nevertheless, the most popular justification. Many even died from the procedure since it made no difference. Heroin cough syrup for kids. Nowadays, Bayer is primarily connected to aspirin. However, the German drug tycoon promoted heroin as a child's cough medicine in the 1920s. When you consider that Bayer's parent corporation assisted the Nazis in eradicating millions of Jews, this seems wrong. What, then, is a little heroin in the grand scheme of things? Malaria to treat syphilis. It sounds absurd to treat one illness by purposefully administering patients with another extremely dangerous illness. But that's exactly what Austrian Dr. Julius Wagner-Jauregg did in the 1920s. He found that fevers brought on by malaria may aid in the treatment of syphilis. For his achievements, he even received the Nobel Prize. Seriously. Naturally, given that malaria may be fatal, many patients passed away during the procedure. Doctors no longer use the procedure for this reason. Urine for teeth whitening. In order to whiten their teeth, ancient Romans utilized both human and animal urine as mouthwash. It's absolutely horrible, but the thing is, it actually works. Ammonia, a nitrogen and hydrogen molecule found in our urine, can serve as a cleaning agent. But it's so gross no modern doctor would recommend it on this era. Arsenic for fever. We are well aware of the harm arsenic brings to humans today, just like with mercury and chloroform. However, many years ago, we were not immediately aware of this. For many years, arsenic was administered to patients as a treatment for conditions like headaches, syphilis, and other blood diseases. But it was also employed to lower fevers. This is crucial to remember because arsenic was frequently prescribed for headaches and fevers because it may lower them. Naturally, there are a variety of causes for headaches. There could be a problem with the neurological system or the muscles, sinus issues, or even a fever. Due to the fact that arsenic renders 200 enzymes inactive, it is harmful to humans. Most of them support DNA synthesis and repair as well as cellular energy processes. Both the neurological system and musculoskeletal system will be impacted by this inactivation. The inhibition of these enzymes frequently prevents both headaches and fevers from occurring because they are both typically immune system reactions to problems. Additionally, it could clean out the sinus cavity. Of course, there are a lot of potential issues with this exposure, including the whole death thing, animal and human sacrifices. It appears noble to sacrifice oneself in order to save another, but this is not the case when it comes to medicine. People used to think that a god or gods were in charge of everything. Therefore, you had to make sacrifices of humans or animals to please them in order to overcome illness or a problem. The same thing took place to bring rain or put an end to famine. One very common practice was for a priest to sacrifice an animal close to the individual who needed to be healed. It was obvious that the person must have displeased the gods if they were unable to recover from their issue. This would be assumed even if a youngster were the one who was impacted. Or else, the child was being punished by the gods as atonement for a mistake made by one or both of their parents. The gods must have been placated if the person did recover. To honor the god or goddess who must have been enraged, an animal was sacrificed. Don't forget to like this video and to subscribe to this channel. Remember to hit the bell button for easy notifications.